There's a moment in life when you realize that everything you believed in for years was a lie. For me, that moment happened on an ordinary evening. I was standing in the kitchen, looking at my wife's phone, and at that moment, I had no idea that in just a few minutes I would discover two things. First, my wife was cheating on me. Second, the person she was cheating with would destroy two of the most important relationships in my life. But the story actually started much earlier. My wife Emily and I had been together for 9 years. We met by accident in a small coffee shop. I still remember the way she laughed, loud enough that people at other tables turned around. I remember thinking to myself, life with this girl will never be boring. And I was right. We started dating quickly. A year later, we moved in together. A few years after that, we got married. Our life was simple. Work, dinner together, occasional weekend trips. I truly believed I knew my wife, but there was another person in our story. My best friend. His name was Jason. We had been friends since high school. We went through everything together. First jobs, stupid mistakes, breakups, late night talks about life. He was the kind of friend you could call at 3 a.m. and he would still pick up. A few years ago, Jason was struggling to find a job. Meanwhile, my wife worked at a large company. So one day I told her, "Hey, could you maybe talk to your manager? They might be looking for someone." A couple weeks later, Jason got hired there. I remember feeling proud. I even joked about it once. Now I've got my own insider in your office. I had no idea that decision would eventually destroy everything. At first, the changes were small. Emily started staying late at work more often. Their company had a lot of corporate parties. At the beginning, she invited me, but after a while, she stopped.
"It's just a work thing," she said. "You'd probably get bored."
I didn't argue. Sometimes Jason mentioned those parties when we hung out. "Man, your wife is the life of the party," he laughed once. And honestly, I felt proud hearing that. Now I realized something painful. I unknowingly pushed them closer together. A few months later, I started noticing little things. Emily was always on her phone. Sometimes she smiled while reading messages. One evening I walked into the kitchen and she quickly turned her phone face down. "Who's texting?" I asked casually.
"Oh, just co-workers."
Nothing special. And I believed her. Because the truth that was waiting for me was something I couldn't even imagine. It happened on a completely normal evening. Emily went to take a shower. Her phone was sitting on the kitchen table. I wasn't planning to look at it. But suddenly the screen lit up. A message appeared. I only saw one sentence. I still can't stop thinking about that night after the corporate party. Something inside me tightened. I picked up the phone and opened the chat. That was the moment my world started falling apart. I saw the name of the person who sent the message, and suddenly I realized the situation was far worse than I could ever imagine. It wasn't just some coworker, not a stranger, not even some random guy from her office. It was someone who had been sitting at my dinner table for years, someone I trusted like family. When Emily came out of the shower, I simply placed the phone on the table. "Want to explain this?" I asked quietly. She looked at the screen and immediately understood. She didn't even try to deny it. Then she told me the truth. It started at one of those corporate parties, the same party she suddenly stopped inviting me to. Everyone had been drinking. Most people left, but the two of them stayed. And that's when everything crossed the line. I asked her the question I was almost afraid to hear the answer to. "With who?" She stayed silent for a few seconds. Then she said the name. And in that moment, I realized I had lost two people at the same time. It was Jason, the man I helped to get that job, the man I personally introduced to that office, the man who sat in my living room, drank beer with me, and called me his brother. That night, I called him. He came over. The three of us sat at the kitchen table. And I remember looking at both of them and realizing something terrifying. For months, I'd been living inside a lie. The strangest part? A few months later, I learned something else. They didn't even stay together. Their relationship ended almost as quickly as it started. I lost my wife. I lost my best friend. But maybe I gained something else. The truth. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones capable of hurting you the deepest, but sooner or later, the truth always finds a way to surface. Even if it starts with one unexpected message, lighting up a phone on a quiet kitchen table,